Welcome to the Ardan Labs podcast. Our special guest today, all the way from the internet. I haven't asked her yet where she's from. Brittany Ellich. Did I just say your name, guy? Ellich. I'm so bad with names, but I love that name, actually. That's got to be a cool name, right? Like, Ellich, get over here. Ellich, what are you doing? Like, I can hear that. Like, it's just, it's like a strong last name. So I love that. All right, Brittany, tell everybody a little bit about, I call it the elevator pitch. So give us, everybody, your like sort of 2-minute elevator pitch on what you're doing today.
So yeah, I'm Brittany Ellich. Like you said, I am based in the Pacific Northwest near Portland, Oregon. And
Nice.
I currently work at GitHub. I'm a senior software engineer there. I'm currently on the billing team, but I've worked on a couple different teams now. I call myself an all-end engineer. I just am a generalist that likes to do a little bit of everything. I've tried specializing, and it's just not for me. So I like doing everything.
I love that. Either you're you like it's me. I'm like I want to learn like 80% of one thing, and just know a few things, and that's good. And then like my business partners like you, I want to know 20% of everything. You know, enough to be dangerous, and that's cool. Like you need both people in the world. And if anybody's upset about their GitHub bill, now we know who to talk to. Okay.
Yes. Yeah, I'll give you my contact information. You can send it all right there.
Sure. Just send it to me. I got my AI agent for email will read it and drop it on the floor. Don't worry. That's cool. Okay. Really, really cool. So I don't know Brittany. We started following each other on Blue Sky. I left. I couldn't handle Twitter. I love Twitter, and I spent a lot of time developing a following there and creating relationships there. But if I watch one more fight video, I'm going to lose my mind. Like, it's turned into everything I never wanted to see on the internet, like Insta and all that stuff. So I'm spending more time over there. So that's where like, at least I saw you, and I saw that, what did you call it? What'd you call it?
An all-end engineer. So.
All end. That's the first time
ends.
I heard that term too. So I like that better than full stack, to be honest with you. We're going to talk about all that stuff. So, but that's so I don't know Brittany. I don't know her story. It's going to be a lot of fun. But I saw her in Blue Sky, so I was like, we have to talk. So, I don't know if you've listened to any of the shows, but my first question that I always loved. So we already know. Okay, a couple things first. This is my first show coming back from the holidays, so my brain is it's got to get back into the rhythm here. So 2 things before we really start. One, I need to know, unfortunately, when you graduated high school, because I got to get a sense of like what year it was when you were like 17, 18. So what year did you graduate high school?
I graduated in 2009.
2009. There we go. Okay, and then sort of where were you in high school? Like, where did you grow up? Were you in Portland at the time, like you grew up?
No, I was actually in Bend, Oregon, which isn't too far from Portland.
Okay, so Oregon is where you
Yep.
You might be my first. How would you say that?
Oregonian. Yeah.
Oregonian.
Yeah.
Wow, that's pretty cool. It's like they say you never find any Floridians. Like I grew up in New York, right? But I've lived in Miami longer now, but I'm still not allowed to call myself a Floridian. So, is there such thing? Do you see? Are there a lot of I can't even say the word. My tongue is all twisted. Oregonians, or are they mostly transplants? Are you unique? Are you a unicorn, Brittany? That's what I'm asking.
No, I'd say there's a lot of Oregonians, but I feel like a lot of the people in the Pacific Northwest kind of stay in the Pacific Northwest. We just kind of, stay to our corner here. It's nice here, so.
Okay, that's fair. No, it's nice. I thought about like living in Seattle for a year maybe, and that it never happened, obviously. But I do enjoy that area of the country. I mean, other than, well, I shouldn't say that, right? People complain about the rain, but I've never experienced that much rain in Seattle, honestly.
Yeah, it's just a drizzle.
Yeah,
it's just a constant drizzle. It's not like serious rain. It's just
it's like being in London, really. I mean, so what's the big deal? Right. Okay, perfect. Okay, so 2009. I got to keep that in my head. And okay, perfect. So here's my first question. I don't want you thinking about it. Don't think hard. Clear your mind. Clear it. Okay. Give me that first memory of you touching a keyboard, doing something on the computer where your brain was like, oh yeah, this is what I want to do.
Yeah, I think so I was probably in third grade-ish, elementary school sometime, like 8 or 9. And I was really into video games, especially MMOs growing up. And I think
What's an
8 or 9
MMO?
and
Because I'm like, oh,
oh, lots of them. So
MMO,
I think sorry, MMO says massive multiplayer online games. So it's like the World of
massive
Warcrafts
multiplayer.
of the
Oh,
world.
okay.
Yeah. So 8 or 9, I think I was playing EverQuest, and I was probably the only 8 or 9 year old playing EverQuest.
Yeah, I know. We're gonna talk about that for sure.
Yeah. I have 2 older brothers, so I always wanted to do everything that they wanted to do. And I remember being on the playground when I was a kid, and all the kids were like, let's play tag, and, let's play Red Rover or whatever. And I was like, no, let's play EverQuest. We'll be elves.
Red Rover. Yeah. Oh my God. Okay. Yeah. And you're like, no. So that was it. So, how much older are your brothers?
They are 4 and 6 years older than me.
Oh, that's decent around, for that. I mean, that's decent. You get a lot of influence. You also become really, really socially and intelligently, like sarcastically smart at that point, because you have to keep up, and you have to. So number 7 here in the house she's 13 now, but she will cut you down. You won't even know you're getting cut down. Right? Like, I know she goes to school and cuts down her peers, and they have no idea what just happened. Teachers will say jokes in the classroom, and she's the only one laughing. So that's like a result of having those older sort of siblings, right? I'm sure you have the same skill set. Yeah,
for sure.
For sure. So now I'm curious, because you're 9 years old. You're on a platform you would never let your kids on in a million years. Absolutely. Not even at like 14. Did your parents? What did your parents like do? Did they understand what was going on when you're 9 years old playing on that thing?
Yeah, I think they did. And I wasn't very good. Also, I think that helped. I always had a brother there helping me type, because I had just learned to read, so typing was still a skill I was developing. So that made it kind of safe too. And I think it was just a different age of the internet. It wasn't the big scary thing that it is now.
That's kind of nice. Your brother was doing that with you, right? I think step back, right?
Yeah. I feel like they're big influences in my life in general. They're both software engineers as well, which is, sort of what helped guide me. Eventually, I took a very not direct route to becoming a software engineer like they did. But
it sounds like that's the only computer in the house. So you all had to compete for sort of time on that?
Yes. Yeah. Until I think once we all became teenagers, we all started building our own. But yeah, at the time, I did not get a lot of time to play video games. It was mostly like sitting over their shoulder and watching, seeing what they were doing.
But you know what? That's such a big thing today on Twitch, right? People just...
It's true.
Yeah. I find it fascinating. I remember when my boys were in high school and they would just watch, and I'd be like, wouldn't you rather play? And they're like, no, Dad, this is like... But I always felt like they were taking the easy way out of everything anyway. Number 5 still does a little bit of that, but yeah, I find that fascinating to just sit and watch people play. Now, but it's your brothers, and you're learning, and you're 9, so I think that's sort of fair. Were your parents technical? Why is there a computer in the house?
Yeah, so my dad worked in the cable industry. I guess he still technically does. And so, yeah, I think he was really interested in electronics and computers. So that's why we had one. And then that kind of sparked the interest for everybody else too. What is
the cable industry like?
TV cable, I guess, and it was about like designing the modems and boxes and stuff that deliver cable. Yeah, I think it's a weird industry to be in now, probably, given Netflix and streaming and stuff. But it does still exist. Like, it's still, I think it's mostly internet, I guess, now.
Yeah, Comcast is really delivering. Yeah, so I worked for a stint at Comcast on a project where part of it was getting the coax out and doing everything over IP, right? Yeah. Because it's kind of mind-blowing when you first realize that every single channel video is going over that coax at the same time. It's not like all of those shows, if you had 100 stations, there's 100 stations of content going over that at all time, right?
Mm-hmm.
Like I mean, I find it fascinating what engineers did in the 60s, 70s, and 80s to get things to work. I think we have an easier time at this point, but some of the things they had to do is wild, right?
Yeah. Thousands and thousands and thousands of lines of cable just all over the world. It's pretty impressive.
Does your dad still have coax coming? Like, does he feel like he's betraying his industry if he doesn't have coax coming into the house? You should ask him that if you haven't.
I will. I'll ask him.
Dad, I know you still have that old set-top box because you just feel dirty cheating on your coax. And he's gonna be like, Brittany, don't tell anybody, but I've been running IP for the last 5 years. All right, I want to talk about high school. You graduate 2009. Those are your formative years. You know, that's when you're like 13, 14, you starting. Obviously, I would imagine you're still playing some sort of video games, but are your parents kicking you out of the house too to get like airtime at that? Like, what are you really interested in heading into high school, first, second year?
Yeah, so I think I was still playing games. I was a super nerdy kid. I didn't have like a ton of friends. I was playing, I think after EverQuest, I moved on to Star Wars Galaxies. That was a very exciting MMO, and then into World of Warcraft, as everybody in the MMO world does. And so most of my time outside of school was really doing that, playing games and, you know, reading general high school things. I think I worked too. I started working at 14, like as soon as I could. At McDonald's, and then I picked up a job eventually as a lifeguard, I think at 15, and I did that all through high school too. So
I had a friend in high school that worked at McDonald's, and I thought it was going to be the greatest thing since sliced bread, but no, I couldn't get free food. He had to always book his Big Mac if he was like gonna. I was like, dude, why are we here, man? Like, this is like, it feels like prison meals, man. They locked that down.
Yeah, and it's really, I mean, it's the only place that will hire 14-year-olds, so that's the big thing. Yeah.
Oh, maybe. You know, I worked in retail stores in like high school and a little bit in college, and the thing is that when you got hungry, you would just drop something on the floor, it would break, and then you couldn't sell it, so you'd book it, and then you'd eat it. Like, we would do that all the time, right? But like, you can't drop a bag of fries on the floor, you know?
Yeah, so, yeah, that's true.
Yeah. But that's cool. I never realized that. Maybe that's why Andy had a job at McDonald's. I'm trying to think. Maybe, you know what? I don't know why I never connected that. But at 14, you're not working the fryers. You must be working register or something, right?
Yeah, there's very limited things you can do. Yeah, it was, you know, working at the window or.
But what compelled you to get a job so early? Is it you really wanted money, or there was something you wanted to buy, or it's just you don't know?
I don't think so. I don't think there was anything in particular that I can recall. I guess that was around the time that I was building a computer, actually. So That's probably what I was working on, was getting all of the components and stuff to put together my first computer.
That's fair. Yeah, it had to be something. I mean, 14 is not, you're not thinking about, unless you really like number 2 loved money, money, like anything for money. I remember one time she told me, she was young, right? Like early high school. She's like, Dad, one day I'm going to make $100,000 and I'm going to be rich. And I just looked at her and I just let her keep the dream, you know, like, oh no, I think you can make 100,000, but you ain't going to be rich. But in her head, like that was like $1 million, right? Mm-hmm. So yeah, she loved money, so she worked. You're playing video games when you can. You're working. What about friends? Because you're not doing sports, music, other things.
Most of my friends were online. I did do a few sports. I swam and stuff because the whole lifeguard thing, that was just sort of part of it.
Okay.
So yeah, spent a lot of time swimming and playing water polo, which is a fun, odd sport. And
that's good. See, I worry. I have this recurring worry that I've gotten so old, my shoulders don't work, that I can't tread water anymore. So I have this like recurring, like I'm going to last 30 seconds and I can't float on my back either, no matter what I do. Number 2 can float in the ocean. I'm sure you can float on your back pretty well. Like I can't. So I have these like, it actually sits in my head sometimes that I can't tread water anymore. And that water.
Well, there's actually Oh, sorry.
Yeah,
Go
yeah,
ahead.
no. Go.
There's a technique that does not require your arms at all to tread water. And that
Huh.
is what all water polo players do. It's called egg beater. It's a motion that you use with your legs, and that's why they're able to use their arms out of the water to play the game and then tread water with their legs. So you have hope.
Okay, but it's still, I mean, the cardio involved
Yeah,
still,
you need the
right?
cardio still.
Yeah,
You
yeah. I
can't get
mean,
around that.
it's cardio, and then your leg strength is like it's leg day every day, right?
It's true. Yeah, it's a great leg
Yeah.
workout.
And core. There must be core legs for you to, yeah, no.
Everything.
So now I wonder how many polo players are like, you know how like you see weightlifters that are really big on the top, but like when they're skipped leg day, are there like polo players that like are big on the bottom, like legs, and then like they're really weak on top because they missed chest day?
That's funny. No, I mean, like, it just requires like your whole body the whole time. So I feel like they're pretty proportional, but maybe a little more leg strength.
Actually, now I got another. These are weird things that pop in my head, Brittany. So I used to play sports. I was pretty good. There was only one sport I ever played that made me sweat, and it was soccer. I could play any sport, and I'd be 5 minutes on a soccer field, and I'm drenched.
Mhm.
Like, do you sweat when you're playing water polo?
Oh yeah, for
Yeah,
sure.
yeah.
I mean, you don't really notice it because you're in the
That's
water,
what I'm
so it's
thinking.
like. But like, you
Yeah.
gotta drink water while you're doing it because I mean, I guess you
You
can
get
drink cool
dehydrated.
water, but that wouldn't
Uh,
work well.
no.
Yeah. So
I
you
guess
get
I never
dehydrated
thought
and
about that
drink.
till just now. Like weird things, right? Things to make you go, hmm. But that means you're in badass shape because that's. I mean,
Well,
that's
then,
real.
yeah.
That's real. Yeah.
At that point, sure.
So like when the Olympics are on, is that the sport you watch? You watch and you can see all the little things, right?
Yeah, I watched the swimming when I was in college for a little while. I've just done a million odd jobs. And one of them was reffing water polo, and so I got really good at a lot of the game happens below the water because that's where all the fouls and stuff happen that are really hard to see. So yeah, a lot of the game is happening.
So what?
The water.
As a ref, you have like a snorkel and you're looking underground, or they have camera.
No,
How
you
does
just
that
got to be
work?
able to look in the water, and you don't catch everything by any means. So
But is
there's
it
some
like
dirty
people
play,
kicking
but
each other?
yeah, oh yeah,
Man,
it's a dirty sport.
oh man, that sounds almost like. Oh wow, I never thought about that either. So my wife's from Colombia. She grew up watching soccer. I didn't. So when the soccer's on, she sees all these little. She'll start screaming, and I'll be like, "What?" She goes, "Wait." I'm like, What do you see?" Right? I find that fascinating. When you're watching a sport and somebody sees something that I don't, because they know the game, and I have to imagine if I watched a water polo match, you'd be the same way. You'd be like,
Yeah.
whoa, what's going on? I'm like, I don't see anything. They're just flapping around. What's
Just
going
white water everywhere. Yeah.
on? But that's kind of cool. Okay, get back on. This is good stuff. So then, all throughout high school, you're doing these sorts of things. But I imagine did your brothers end up going to uni and like there wasn't any question you were going to uni, or did you have other options?
Yeah, I feel like college was just like a big checkbox. Like it was just the thing that happened after high school. So it was a guarantee I was going to go. I think I only applied to the one school that they went to, which was Oregon State University, popular school for Oregonians. And yeah, I had absolutely no idea what I wanted to do. I think I was very much in the like, you can do anything generation where everybody's like, you can do anything. But as a 17-year-old, when you're trying to decide what that is, I'm like, I don't know what anything is. I don't know what jobs are. So I did not go to school for computer science.
You didn't know what your major was going to be your first, or you
I
had to
think
have a general idea.
Yeah, so I think my major was pre-med. I think that was the only suggestion people gave me was like, oh, you'd be great with kids and you should be a pediatrician or a teacher or something. So I was like, all right, I'll go pre-med and we'll see
Wow,
what happens.
that's like serious.
Yeah,
See-
and I was also really young, so I was also in the generation where you could get a lot of college credits in high school, and I skipped a grade in 8th grade. So I started high school as a 17-year-old at Oregon State as a sophomore already, and that's a very young age to go off on your own and decide what you want to do for the rest of your life.
So there's two things here that pop in my head. My mom started me in school a year early, which when I look back on it, I wish she didn't. because I was all I could look back on it now and know I was less mature than everybody else. And I think it affected me both educationally, where my mind really wasn't ready, and other things. You're immature. But you going to college at 17 is kind of the same thing, right? You've got
Absolutely.
adults and people with that extra level of maturity around you. But did you experience any of that?
Oh, yeah. Yeah, that was probably too young to be away. And yeah, my first year was just an absolute train wreck. I think I got a 0.87 GPA my first year, which out of 4,
you beat me because my first semester at uni was like 0.9. So now I don't feel so bad.
Yeah.
But I met we met the sub 1. We're part of the sub 1. I did graduate, by the way. It was a struggle after that.
I did as well, eventually. But yeah, it took a lot of getting my life together after that, for sure.
See, my excuse was I grew up on Long Island. I call it the island of Long. And I went to school at the top of New York State, upstate New York. Mm-hmm. I wanted to get as far away from home as possible, but I had to stay in the state. I didn't realize how cold it was up there. Okay? So by November, I didn't want to leave the dorm room. I stopped going to class because it was just too cold for me. And obviously that didn't work out.
Mm-hmm.
And then going home and showing mom the 0.9, that was not a fun day.
Yeah.
Right? They're going to see that.
Great. Yeah.
No. But you were living on campus too then, right? You did, 17.
Yeah, I was in the dorms, at least for the first 2 terms. They do terms instead of the semesters. And then the third one, I think me and a few friends moved out to a house instead. I was 18 by that point, so at least a legal adult and could sign a lease.
No, but like 17 in that environment is it's a lot to ask. I mean, you could look back on it now and see that was a lot to...
Oh, for sure. Yeah. Like, I was a pretty mature kid, like you said, growing up with older brothers and stuff like that. But yeah, looking back with hindsight, it's like, oh no, that was not my best move, for sure. I mean, it worked out. But
have you ever asked your parents, like, where their head was with that? Or are they just the type of parents where it's like, which is fair, I'm a little bit like this, you're just going to have to learn. These are lessons. It's not a train wreck where you stop it, right? So
yeah.
Have you ever asked them?
Yeah, and I think my mom says that she knew, too, like, this was probably not a great idea, but it was one of those things she could never talk me out of it at that point. And, you're almost an adult. You got to make your own mistakes. So
plus, you're not going to spend a year at home doing nothing. Like, it's a catch-22 at that point, right?
Yep.
Unless they made you go to the local community college and stay home a year. That would have been your only option.
Yeah, which is actually, like, a very recommended route. It's cheaper. You can get... through all your prereqs, and
you're now being a practical mom, Brittany.
I know. How the tables have turned.
This is when, as a parent, this is when you get revenge on your kids when they have the kids, and then they start going through the same.
Ask me in 14 years how that's going.
In fact, number 6 is number 6, which. The last 2 kids I basically adopted in a second marriage. And she's 17. She won't carry her license with her. She won't carry, like, it's my biggest struggle with her, right? I'm like, you're not a kid anymore. You got to have ID. You got to have money. But I have my phone. I'm like, and if the phone dies or they don't take a phone, the idea that a merchant doesn't take a phone for payment is beyond her comprehension. Wow. Right?
I feel like I still haven't arrived at the point where I accept that merchants take phones for payment. So
the one day 2 weeks ago, I left the house without my wallet in my pocket, which is never. I was trying to get the car washed. They didn't use the damn phone. I had to drive all the way back home, right? Like, my luck there, because I never used the phone either. But I was telling my wife, Allie, I was like, This is the one thing that frustrates me about her. Like, she's going to be going to, like, Georgia Tech or Notre Dame, or, like, she's wicked smart. But this one thing drives me to drink. And she looked at me, and Allie looked at me. She goes, I was just the same way when I was her age. I can't get mad at her because I did exactly the same thing. I just didn't like a purse, and I didn't do these things. And it's like her, when she said that to me, I looked at it, it was like, she's accepting that she's not allowed to be frustrated because, right, these are her traits. But I'm in the back of my head, I'm going, yeah, but these are not my traits, damn it.
I don't have to accept it.
I have to accept it. You know what's also interesting about number 6? She's applied to like 12 schools.
Wow.
Yeah. And I told her, I go, nobody applies to more than like 3 or 4 schools. But her high school is all about applying to these colleges. So I have a bet with her that she's going to get into 9 out of the 12. Because I told her your biggest problem is not getting into uni. It's now deciding sort of where you want to go.
Yeah,
right?
sometimes having a lot of choice is a lot more difficult than...
So I've been trying to talk to her already. So I think we've got it down to, if she gets into Georgia Tech, that's number 1. She got into St. Mary's, which is the sister school for Notre Dame. So that's like number 2. And I think some of the other schools are just, I don't want to say ego, but just to know that she got in. And a couple of them are because people told her she couldn't get into those schools. So she just applied.
Nice. That's
awesome. Austin, like UT Austin, and there's another one where she's just applying just to like give them the finger with the letter, right? Yeah. Okay, so you go. What was the college name again? It was
Oregon State.
Oregon. Oh, Oregon State. Oh yeah, they got some good sports over there. Nice. Yeah. I told her too. You got to go to a school with sports, but not anything no school that can beat Notre Dame. I can't have that.
Yeah.
Oregon State. Okay, cool. So you start your freshman year. You're not 100% sure, but you had to pick some sort of major. You choose pre-med. You and I are in the same first semester track on grades, but obviously you get that together because you can't do that for. At what point do you figure out what you really want to study in uni?
Yeah. So probably about 5 years after I graduated.
Wow. So what kind of degree did you graduate with?
So I graduated in 2013 with a degree in environmental science.
Okay, that's not pre-med.
That's
I mean, you moved.
Yeah, no, not at all.
We're moving.
But I like
when
science.
Did you? So you see, all 3, the first 3, my 1, 2, 3, all went to uni. Mm-hmm. And in their last year, they decided they didn't want to do what they were studying, which had me panicking because I'm like, you have to finish. Mm-hmm. So one went from journalism to criminal justice and finished a semester late. One went education and decided didn't want to be in the classroom, but she graduated on time. The other one became a nurse. So I figured you were going to have some story like that where in my senior year, I finally decided what I wanted to do. But at some point, I guess you switched to this environmental science stuff.
Yeah, I switched pretty quickly. And I mean, the big reason that I switched is I think actually like the biology advisor that I was meeting with was right next door to the environmental science advisor. And at some point I went into him like, I am doing so poorly. I don't know what I want to do. And he's like, why don't you come talk to them and see? I think he just like handed me off to her. And
be somebody else's problem, Brittany.
Yeah, I mean, there was like thousands of kids that go to school for biology. So I think he was like, why don't you go meet with her? And I did. And I was like, oh, this is interesting. The classes were super cool. I really enjoyed them. It was a lot of sustainability and soil science and stuff. And I think I didn't really think about what that job was going to be until I was about to graduate. And by then it was too late. I think whenever anybody asked me like, oh, what are you going to do with environmental science? I was like, I guess I'll work at the EPA or something. Like, I don't know. I'll figure it out.
Go work with NOAA tracking fish. Yeah. See, that's
exactly
what you should have done.
There's lots. I know. Looking back, I'm like, man, I should have just been like a park ranger. But that's most of those jobs are very competitive. It's hard to get into.
Yeah, because they're great jobs with the pensions.
Fantastic. After I graduated, I found a track that I found interesting, which was I actually ended up going back to school and got a master's degree in public health in environmental and occupational health. So a lot of big companies will have folks that work in what's called environmental health and safety. And so they kind of handle everything from like environmental regulations to, the safety of employees and things like that. So I decided to go back to school and got a degree in that from 2014 to 2016. I was doing that master's degree.
So for almost like a year, you were still trying to figure out, and then you decided to go back and get your master's.
Yeah.
Is that like, there are these buildings I see sometimes I don't remember, LEET or something, where they got that badge on it and they're supposed to be environmentally.
Oh yeah, LEED. Yeah, that's
LEED.
I can't remember what that stands for, but yeah, that means that the building has met some sort of requirement for being a sustainable building.
Yeah. So that year after uni must have been tough because, right? I guess you didn't find a job, or you didn't find a job. Like, you're still trying to figure out what you want to do, right?
Oh yeah, it was very stressful because I moved back with my parents for a while,
which is
I
impossible.
worked at Starbucks, which is actually I enjoyed that. I worked all through college too at a cafe, so it was similar.
So do you enjoy, because I had a nephew that decided to work at Dunkin' Donuts and lasted a week because they couldn't handle the drink orders.
Oh,
like, that's not a joke. Give me a half latte with X, Y, and Z and blah blah blah. I can't even say it. It's so complicated.
Yeah.
I walk up and I'm like, let me have a Doppio with an extra shot. Like, that's it. I keep it simple. But some of these get, like, you see that commercial with what is that actress? She's so funny, where she's like telling her assistant what the coffee order is, and she's like, I got a double cafe with a double pump and a double caramel and a double this, and she's like, we're done, But how long does it take to learn how to, like, just the lingo? Maybe you already knew the lingo because you were like already a customer, so you already knew the lingo.
Yeah, I kind of knew it going into it. And like I said, I worked at a cafe for 3 years in college, so I was kind of familiar with it. But at Starbucks, I don't know. I actually really enjoyed the chaos of it. There's like this certain flow state you get into working on the bar where you're just like moving and like you're just plugged in, feel like an octopus, like just.
Do you have a song in your head when that's happening, where your brain just
I don't think so. Probably just, I think like my flow state music is always like some lo-fi hip hop music. So it's just, which is what they play a lot in Starbucks. It's just, it's just chill.
I wonder like if one of those songs come in the background, your brain, like you start to, so like there was certain soundtracks in a couple retail stores where at some point you want to shoot yourself, right? Because it's on a small track. And you're just like, if I have to hear this song one more time, and then you're out in the wild and the song comes on and you're just like, maybe that's where some of this rage comes from, people working in retail stores with.
Yeah. For me, that's the Monster Mash. I also worked at a Halloween stores for a few years, and there's like 6 Halloween songs. And one of them is the Monster Mash. And every time I hear that, I'm like, gosh, I gotta skip it. I can't listen to this song again.
Yeah. Imagine being that guy who sang that. Like, that guy became not famous and wealthy on that one song, right? Mm-hmm. But like, you have to sing
for the Monster Mash.
Yeah, or even like being an award-winning artist where you just have the one song. And so I teach a Go class, and I taught the same class for like 6 years straight. 20 to 30 weeks out of the year. And I finally went to my business partner. I said, I can't. If I say this one more time, you're going to have to commit me. I go, I just can't. I can't say anymore. I wonder how singers, even like Taylor Swift, who just went on this 18-month tour or something, like, how do you gain enough energy to like sing the same song and it's new for somebody watching it, but for you, that's it. There's talent in being able to do that. And my business partner would just say, think about the money. Think about the money. Think about the money. But like, that only goes so far,
Yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah, especially Taylor Swift has to think about the things that she wrote in high school too and sing those over and over again. And I cannot imagine having to revisit that over and over. It's impressive for sure.
But I think the hardest part is you've been on your own for 4 years, and now you got to go back into your parents' house, and it's their rules again. No matter how much freedom and flexibility they give you. Did the house, see, this is the other thing. I told this to number 6. I go, when you come back for the first time after like from uni, the house is going to feel smaller to you. I don't know why. The house always feels like smaller. Like I was living in this tiny little thing.
Yep. Yeah, for sure. It definitely felt smaller. And I get along really well with my parents, so it wasn't terrible. And yeah, I think it was just a stressful time because trying to figure out what I wanted to do with my life was really hard. Clearly, because I'm not doing that anymore.
So
here at Ardan Labs, we believe in empowering companies to reach their full potential through innovative technology solutions. Trusted by small startups and Fortune 500 companies alike, we specialize in high-performance software consulting, training, staffing, development, and now AI. With over 14 years of experience, Ardan Labs has trained over 30,000 engineers and served over 1,000 companies worldwide. Whether you're mastering Go, Rust, Kubernetes, Terraform, or blockchain, we're your strategic partner for performance-grade solutions. Let's elevate your tech journey together. Reach out to Ardan Labs today.
So you do that, you decide I'm going to go and get a master's degree but you chose the environmental sciences, right? So you said, did you at that point have an idea of what you wanted to do in terms of career when you made that choice?
Yeah, I did actually. I got really into when I started studying the environmental and occupational health. I started getting really into the occupational health side, which is more like the employee worker safety. And while I was in school, I was also a research assistant for a couple of different professors, and I was doing, a lot of computer-y things for them, like building out e-learning content or like light website maintenance or like data scraping and things like that. And that was a lot of those skills that I think I built up as a kid, always being on a computer. But for whatever reason, when I went to college, I did not connect, maybe I should do software. Like my two older brothers who are currently software engineers, like it just never connected in my brain that was a thing that I would enjoy, despite the fact that I was doing it and enjoying it.
So then you finished this master's degree, but it feels like you started to realize that you could have a career doing these other things.
Yeah. So I ended up working as a health and safety consultant for a few years after I finished the master's degree. I worked for an insurance company, which was kind of an interesting gig because you go to all these different businesses and you try to give them resources on how they can keep their employees safer, or how they can not burn their building down or anything like that. And I think that there was a few things that happened there that really helped me actually find a path. The first one was that it was the first time, I think, in my life that I didn't have something that I was working towards. I didn't have a degree I was working towards or anything like that. And having that space allowed me to, the space to sort of think more about what I wanted to do. And I also had the time, because I wasn't in school, to learn things that I always wanted to learn. So that's actually when I started doing Free Code Camp. And that's sort of my first path into, doing software stuff full time. And I also got, as a consultant, I got really into the report writing side. And I was building all of these like Excel tools to help automate my report writing and just loving that sort of work. And it was kind of nice too, because working in occupational health and safety is kind of an interesting thing where you work in all verticals and like horizontals of a business. One day I would be talking to a frontline worker about ergonomics and things like that with their job in a manufacturing site. And the next day I'd be, presenting things to a CEO of a company or whatever. So I got to see a lot of different jobs. It's kind of like being on that show, How It's Made, where you just get to see everything and go everywhere. So
were you invited
for what I wanted?
Were you invited in these shops, or were you sort of, they were told you had to be there? Because I would imagine somebody young being forced on me to tell me what I'm doing wrong was not a fun experience.
Yeah, I think a lot of it was a little bit of grudging acceptance, because it's like, well, we need to be insured by this company, so we got to talk to this 20-something-year-old girl, and, yeah. So especially, I worked in Boise, Idaho at the time, too, and that was working with a lot of food manufacturing sites and farms. So I'd go, be this 20-something girl rolling up to this 4th-generation farmer, being like, hey, here's how you keep people safe. Yeah, it was... Yeah. It was really good training for learning how to talk to anyone and try to talk people down and like get them on your side. And that's a thing that I feel like I don't get at all very much in software, that I'm like really appreciative for that experience, even though it's not at all software related. I feel like it's been tremendously helpful for
well, it can be software related when you have ideas and thoughts and you've got to persuade people and get them on your side. I think it's there. It's just it may be more welcoming on the software side than, because I can imagine at my age, if you walked up and you were like, you got to do these things, and I'm just like, Just tell me what I have to do to get this thing. Or,
Yeah.
there's an envelope over there under the hay barrel. Just
Yeah, I never got any bribes. That is kind of a
man.
bummer, actually, looking back on it. I did not take that opportunity to get bribes.
That's because you weren't in Miami. No.
Yeah.
But if you were down in Miami, there would have been envelopes everywhere.
Yeah.
What is it going to take for you to sign off on this?
Yeah, that's funny. Yeah, so it was really good experience, even though it was not, not what I'm doing now. But yeah,
But
I
it was
think
a 9-to-5 job, right? It was a 40-hour a week job. So suddenly you have a lot of free time.
Mm-hmm.
And is that where the free code camp stuff sort of comes in?
Yeah, I started with free code camp, and it was one of those things where I would sit down on the weekend and start working on something, and then I would look at my clock and I'd be like, oh, 6 hours have gone by and I'm still doing this. Like, I'm just loving this type of work. It's really fun. So once I worked through a lot of that, I realized that the place that I was working had tuition assistance. And at the time, I had just had to start paying on my student loans for my bachelor's and master's degree. And I remembered, like, if I go back to school, I don't have to pay on those for a while. So
defer. I mean, you're paying interest, everybody, but
it's true. Not recommended.
Like, you're paying interest. It's not like it's free money.
Yeah.
But you don't have to start a payment plan, which now you look back, you wish you had paid it anyway.
Yeah.
I know.
Yeah. But yeah, that was my bright idea. Cause at the time I was still 23, I think.
Yeah, sure. My girls have gone through the same sort of,
Yeah.
even during COVID when they weren't being charged interest, I was trying to tell them, keep paying it, keep paying it, keep paying it. Now's the time,
That's a great time to do it, for sure.
But they didn't listen to me.
Yeah. Well,
Kids never listen.
That's true. Classic. But yeah, so I ended up doing a software development degree through Western Governors University when I was like, all right, this is a thing that I might be interested in. Finally.
So you did like a double A, or you went with a full 4-year?
It was a bachelor's. It's a 4-year
Nice.
degree. I transferred in about a third of the credits because I already had a degree. This is my third one at this point.
Wait. You can, well, you know what? You can double dip credits across.
Oh yeah. Especially for all like the prereqs and stuff. Yeah. Oh yeah.
What?
Yeah.
You can double dip? I don't know if I like that idea. I think like those credits have been used for a degree. Like, why do you get to like double dip? Then I could have had 20 degrees at that point.
It's true. You could. It'd be a very expensive hobby, but you could have 20 degrees.
Yeah, well, I don't think my credits from 1988 are going to matter right now. But
it's true, actually. They do eventually expire. So I got kind of lucky that I think it's within 7 years or something like that. You can apply it towards it, and I just.
So that means instead of 120 credits for this degree, you only had to do like 60 maybe, or.
Yeah, it's like 80, and then, so it was all just the software specific ones.
I feel like that's a life hack right there.
Yeah, Western Governors is kind of an interesting school too because they do what's called competency-based learning. So you do one class at a time, and as soon as you're ready, you take the test to be done with it. So it took me 8 months, I think, to do the whole thing, which is
okay. But did you work on a project at least?
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh yeah. It was, I think, honestly, as much as when I was going into it, I was really skeptical of it. Because I'm like, how are people finishing this so quickly? And like, not everybody does, but some people would accelerate it. And at the time, my work was actually really slow. So I just had a ton of time to be able to do this. That was part of it. I didn't have kids at the time too. That helped tremendously.
What was the tech stack at uni? Because you're talking, wait. You're talking 9 plus 4 is 13, 14, 15. So you're talking about what, like 2017 you did this?
2017.
Okay, perfect.
What
was
the
the
Java.
tech stack? Yeah, Java.
And it was a software development degree and not computer science. I think they have a computer science offering now, but it was not like all of the math and everything. It was just like, here's how you build these software programs. And I feel like it was actually really applicable compared to what it could have been.
But you did that in a year, essentially.
Things. Yeah.
Suddenly you had a second undergraduate degree.
Yeah.
In like less than 12 months.
Yeah.
That's
it was great.
Yeah. Man, I feel like I missed something along. Like, that's like a life hack right there.
Oh, for sure. Yeah. And I mean, I've done enough school now to be able to confidently say, like, I've done the brick and mortar 4-year degree thing, I would recommend people do that any day because I learned way more doing that.
I don't think everybody can do. I need
Not
to be in a
everybody.
classroom.
It's true.
I honestly don't have
Some people need that.
the discipline for this online. Now, maybe I would have learned in high school because they start doing some of that in high school. And like you said, start taking uni classes and everything's online. But I don't know. It's like when I go, so I used to do a lot of yoga. Then my yoga shop closed. And the next yoga place was too far. So I stopped going. So I told my wife, I want to start going again. But bottom line, she's like, well, you can do it online. I said, I don't have that instructor like there. I'm going to cheat. I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to push. I'm not going to, it's just, but you have the ability to do that. That is absolutely fantastic.
Yeah, and it's a skill set. I mean, I think nobody's born with like an innate ability to learn things online. Like it takes a long time, I think, to learn the discipline to figure out how to keep showing up and keep working on it. And luckily, I think doing all of the free code camp stuff before the degree helped me because it helped me realize that it was something that I really wanted, and it also helped me, learn how to learn, which was
it's great. I even now, like there's some material I want to learn, and I have to run the videos at like 1.5 because they don't move fast enough for my brain. And after 20 minutes, I have to pause the video and I have to do something else, and then I'll get back to the video. I can't. It doesn't make sense for me, but I just can't. I can't. My brain needs it, and so I think I would really struggle with. Not that I couldn't be disciplined. I just think as I get older, it gets worse, by the way, too. And I'm popping vitamin B like it's candy. But I find my attention span is getting worse and worse as I get older.
Yeah,
for this
yeah,
stuff.
I could see that.
It's now I will still get lost for 3 hours in code if I'm working on something I'm super enjoying. But the learning part gets harder for me.
Yeah,
so
it is hard.
So you get this degree. You get your second degree. I shouldn't say that. Third degree, technically. Like 2017. So 2018 is not a bad time to be in the market looking. Last year was horrific to be looking for anything. People would come to me about jobs and I would say, stay where you are for another year. Keep your mouth shut and stay where you are. I think this year will be better. But 18 is not a horrible time to be looking. So what do you decide to do once you get the degree? You start throwing your resume out and around?
Yeah. So at the time I was in Boise, Idaho. And so I started throwing my resume around. I actually, since I was sort of, finishing a degree program, that's a really common time for people to be looking for new hires and stuff. So it kind of worked out in that way. And I ended up getting a few different offers, which was kind of cool, for different places in Boise. And I think that the consulting experience at that point really helped. I ended up getting a job at a consulting company there, a software consulting company.
That's a great first job because you're going to get to work on every 6 or 8 months or something.
Yeah.
Some new stuff,
great.
Right? It is a good.
Yeah.
I mean, you're not making half of what they're billing you out at, but
not at all.
but you're getting, I've been to Boise one time. I think I did a training out there. I want to say it was for Shipped. They had an office in a bank or something. I was shocked about that city. I thought, I'm going in the middle of nowhere. Like this is going to be, though the hotel was not in downtown. The roads were empty. I mean, fields that you could see and every morning at 6 o'clock, there was a car accident on that open road. I started to believe that the more open the road is, the crazier people are distracted because I don't know, car accident every morning there. But I was really shocked with that city. I enjoyed it. I was shocked. My expectations were low, but they shouldn't have been. It was a nice, real city. I'm going to say real city. I grew up in New York, so you got to excuse my arrogance here. But it was a real city. It had real restaurants and real buildings and real.
Well, and that's fair. I mean, you don't really expect that going to Idaho, and all the Idahoans listening. There's, not a whole lot of Idahoans out there in general, but they would hate it if they hear people say that Boise is actually really nice. because so many people have been moving there because it is actually really nice. It is kind of in the middle of nowhere in the fact that once you're there, you got to go 5 hours to get anywhere else. But the city itself is really nice, and they did a really good job, I think, planning for growth because they are really wide streets, and you know they have a lot of space to expand, which is nice. So yeah, there was actually a pretty thriving tech community there too, especially in 2018. I think they're one of the places that didn't really shut down during the pandemic, so I'm not really sure how it is now. Maybe they survived a little better too than other places, but I got a consulting gig there. That was the first time too that I met like a very senior female engineer, because there's not a lot of those out there, but that was really cool. One of the ladies that I worked on my main project with, her name was Kathy, and she, you know, had been doing it for over 20 years, and I felt like that was really cool to be able to see like, oh, there are women who do this job. I think that's one thing that held me back for a long time going into computer science and stuff, because everybody was like, oh, women don't join computer science. They don't do computer science degrees or whatever. It's like 2% or something in the program. So it took me a long time, I think, to realize that was a thing, like an option for me.
Because when you were doing your degree, it was really a solo effort, right? You didn't have a lot of the one thing I like about this St. Mary's program, because number 6 wants to go into engineering, is cool. It's an all women's school. So her first year of engineering is all with girls at the uni. By the time she finishes in 5 years, she'll be taking all her classes at Notre Dame. But at least she eases into having assholes in the classroom with her. I told her that. I think this is great because you'll ease into, and you'll have more women around you. You can fight the assholes a little bit more. Because I've seen it. I went back to my uni a few years ago, and I was at a party one time, and one of the kid was being an asshole to one of the female engineers, and I stepped right up. I said, "We're not doing this." Like, scolded him, like, because I was like a parent or something. So it's out there, for sure. So what was the tech stack that you were working on with this particular job?
They were all C# and .NET, so that was sort of my first foray. It was pretty, so like I said, my degree
But you had to learn that. So. You were doing all Java.
Yeah, but it's pretty similar. Like C# and Java are pretty close, so it wasn't a huge stretch, I feel like.
Yeah.
But it was also the first time that I had, you know, code being reviewed or something like that, because that wasn't really a thing in college. It's not really something that was practiced.
Coding standards, suddenly.
Yes.
Coding standard.
Yeah.
How did you handle those first code reviews? Were you open to it, or were you like you're nitpicking, or maybe a little bit of everything?
I think I was pretty receptive to it. I like to think. I think it was nice to finally get some guidance because, like I said, I didn't get any guidance in school at all on whether I was doing things right. And going back and looking at some of the stuff I wrote for school, it was just spaghetti, a mess. Everything was a mess.
But if you don't look at your code every 3 months and feel that way,
it's true. Yeah, you know? Then you're not really. Are you really writing software if you don't
time
hate
to do something else?
Written?
Yeah, exactly. That means you weren't improving, but it works. I try to tell engineers all the time. That's the first thing you have to do. Make it work, and then we'll clean it up.
Yeah. And I feel like the company that I worked for too cared a lot, not just about coding standards, but about teaching people. I think at the time they were hiring a lot of really entry-level people and trying to train them up. So it was like the first time I learned about, different design patterns and, software engineering principles that were...
Is that the first time you're using source control too, or were you using that in uni?
Yeah, that's the first time I started using Git.
Yeah. The first version control systems that I saw were like back in 1995. SourceSafe, which I think was a Microsoft product, and that was the first time I'd seen it, and I'd been already coding professionally for about 4 or 5 years. But before that, we used to create a folder and just version code on our disk, like that was version 1, 2. You look right again. You look back on it, but that's all we had at the time, you know.
Now you're looking at it like this is a very smart thing to have made. Yeah,
Git is. I used to have to adopt projects that weren't using version control, and I just want to shake my head.
Yeah.
But Git's magical when you first When you first see it, your brain's like, yeah, of course, this is a problem that needed to be solved,
Yep.
right?
Exactly. Yeah.
So how long are you at this company? What happens next?
I was only there for about 9 months. Around that time, I got married there to my partner, and we decided that we wanted to move back home and be closer to family because we wanted to have kids. So,
So your partner was from Oregon too,
yeah, he is.
but
yeah,
you
he's from
met
Oregon.
you met him in Idaho.
Oh no, we met in college.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay,
So
okay,
I
okay.
drug him out to Boise and then drug him back to Boise when it was time.
That's good. That's good.
that
You have
was-
somebody
yeah.
that follows you. I mean, that's all you can ask.
Now I'm remote, so hopefully if we need to go anywhere, we can go for his career. But yeah,
But you both have family there, so
Yep. Family's close by, which was important to us. And I think also, like I said, I worked with Kathy, who at Aleda was the company that I was working at. And she was talking about how she was remote, for 20 years to have her kids. And it was really nice to be home with them and stuff. And I thought about that. I was like, oh, okay, like that's something that I might want to consider when I want to go have kids in the future. So we moved back to Portland, and I actually got my first job back in Portland through the Women Who Code Slack. My last 3 jobs I've gotten through Women Who Code. I'm really sad that they shut down last year, but I got a job at Nike as a contractor, a 1-year contract there in Portland, which is based in Beaverton. So, if you work in the Portland area in software, I feel like most people end up working there at some point. And yeah, it was
did
really
you
fun.
like working at Nike?
I did. I worked on a team with some incredibly smart people, which I feel like I learned so much during that time.
What problems were you working on, and what was the tech stack there?
So it was Java on the back end, so, still somewhat familiar, and then React on the front end. So I worked on the customization builder team, which if you've ever gone on the Nike website and customized a shoe, we owned the React app that lets you customize and then order shoes.
That's cool.
Yeah.
I wear Converse, so I do that on the
Okay.
Converse site all the time.
Yeah, we did the Converse builder too. Actually, their Converse is owned by Nike, so we own that as
okay.
well.
So then I've used it because
Yeah.
I can never get the colors. Anytime I happen to be near a store, which is rare, and I see Converse, I run in just to look for colors.
Yeah.
And there's colors like orange for my company stuff I can never find. So,
Wow.
yeah.
The customization options.
Oh yeah, I don't do much, but I did that. Yeah, it works. I like actually, it looks really good, and it's almost like a spitting image of what you get back too. So, so
Yeah.
that's cool.
Yeah,
Oh,
it
that
was
is
a lot
cool.
of fun.
But that was
Yeah.
like a contract. They didn't renew it, or you decided you were moving on.
Yeah, so around the time that the contract was ending, I think it ended in February 2020, and I was in talks with them. It took a long time for them to be able to decide whether or not they had a full-time position. And at the same time, I was like, well, I know that we want to have kids probably sometime soon, so I would like to find a job that's remote. And that was in February 2020 that I left Nike to go get a job that was remote. Which probably could have stayed, as it turns out, and stayed remote. But
Things happen for a reason. But yeah, that
It's
was
true.
not the time to be looking for.
Yeah. I did find a remote job. There were a lot of options, and then shortly after that, there were a lot of remote options because everything was remote and everybody was hiring like crazy. And
Nice.
but yeah, so I found a job at a place called Hippo Education. They do medical education for doctors, where it was video courses and podcasts and quiz type apps, just a ton of different content for doctors. So they were all remote, and I joined them for, I think, again, through the Women Who Code job board. I found that, and I was there for about 2.5 years.
And what were you working on there? Were you doing still back end, front end, everything?
Everything. Yeah, everything. It's a pretty small team. I think ranging while I was there between like 6 and 10 people. There was so we wore every hat.
It's almost. Did that have a startup feel to it then? Because it didn't.
A little bit.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Do you
Yeah.
prefer the startup feel or the Nikes?
I don't know.
GitHub is in the middle,
yeah.
right? GitHub's in the middle.
Yeah, GitHub is definitely a little bit more established, but still feels a little startup-y. Like the culture still feels a little startup-y. So I think I like the benefits that come with the larger companies, but I love being able to, like I said, I like being an all-in engineer. I like to do everything. So I really enjoyed getting to do that at Hippo. And I really fell in love, I think, with product engineering at the time. We, had a little bit of churn in the product management side of the org. So I kind of got to flex there and do a little bit of that as well, which I really, really enjoyed.
But now you're not coding anymore, right? You're really more doing design and
No, I
market.
was still doing a lot of coding. It was
analysis?
more just planning the apps and stuff like that to make
Okay.
sure that we had everything set up. I was still doing a lot of coding. Gosh, we were doing, we only had like 6 people building, multiple different apps, mobile apps and websites and everything.
But again, that's a contract. So
No, it
Or
wasn't a
that was
contract.
FTE? That was
Yeah,
full-time?
that was FTE. I was there for 2.5 years. I started as a software developer and was promoted to a senior software developer, and then was a tech lead manager by the time I left.
see, that's
there.
that's the problem, right? You're going to move away from being that. What do they call it? Individual contributor. That term like popped up in my timeline a few years ago. I had no idea what it meant. Like I had to look it up.
Yeah.
Are you? Well, I want to talk about where you move next, but have you ever had this fear of getting away from being an IC and into management and losing your sort of skill set? Yeah.
A little bit. I think at the time, so I was still doing a lot of coding and then just managing the folks on my team. And it was a nice taste of what management life is like. And I think it helped me realize that that was not the path that I'm most interested in, which is another one of the reasons why I left and went to GitHub is I was interested in, more individual contributor options. I wanted to go to GitHub because there's just, it's GitHub.
It is GitHub. So you,
Yeah.
you ended up at GitHub in like 22 then?
Yeah. Yeah. Early 2022.
Tell me how the GitHub opportunity presented itself. Was it also the Women Who Code?
Yeah, it was. Yeah, it was on the Women Who Code job board. And yeah, I was surprised. I guess at the time I was interviewing for a few different places. I knew that Hippo Education had been acquired and they lost their parental leave benefits when they were acquired. And so I knew that I had my first kid while we were at Hippo. And then I knew that we wanted the option to have a second kid. So I wanted to go somewhere that actually had better benefits for that. And so I was interviewing with a few places at the time and I was targeting mostly larger tech companies because that's, they have the best benefits typically. And so I ended up with GitHub and I started on the Actions team. At the time, I think they were adding a bunch of folks to the Actions org, and there was just so many like incredible opportunities there. I knew that was a place that I could
What's
go
the
and
tech
be for a
stack for
while.
that stuff? Is that all front end JavaScript stuff or is back end?
No, actually, Actions is it's almost all Go based,
Nice.
which was really cool.
So you got to
And
start writing some
React.
Go code, which is a
Yes.
completely different programming language
Oh
than
my gosh.
anything you've ever
Yes.
touched. So do you like Go? Do you like the Go mechanics better than your object-oriented mechanics?
I do. Yeah, I do. I really like it. I feel like I still have a lot of learning to do on like writing idiomatic Go code, but I enjoy it for sure. I
Okay.
like how fast it is.
You like? Well, Java can be just as fast too.
It's true.
But that compiler feedback, there's nothing like that, right? The feedback. Are you leveraging all the AI tooling to help you write code? Or you're
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, I
using
think
the Copilot.
yeah, so we they have the saying that everybody always says we use GitHub to build GitHub. We do a lot of dog fooding, so we have a lot of opportunity to use Copilot features. And yeah, I think they're fantastic personally. I enjoy using them, so I've sort of integrated them into my workflow and figured out how to make them work for me.
Yeah, for writing Go, they're in my way constantly.
Yeah.
But if I'm doing some front end stuff, I tend not to mind it. I don't like it in the editor. I started on monochrome monitors, so my editor features have to be so low key that they're not my way. But I don't mind using it for, instead of doing a Google search, maybe
Oh yeah.
find something on a chat GPT like interface. I think that's been more for me than it integrating into the code. But
Yeah, I think where it really shines for me is like generating tests. When I go write something, I feel like it does a good job of at least putting the boilerplate there. And then I can, instead of spending all this time trying to copy and paste tests over or something, it'll, help me there and save a lot of time, which is nice.
That's fair. I think on the testing side, it's fair. I've done some pair programming with people who I've had to ask turn some of that tooling off because I feel like it gets. Sometimes I'm not sure that developers are even understanding the code that's being placed in there, like fully understand it. They're just accepting it. And I'm curious to see what happens over the next 2 years with this sort of tooling. If people start to pull away from it more or double down. I don't know. I don't know what's going to happen yet.
Yeah, I'm excited to see too. That's been really fun in my time at GitHub, getting to see how it has changed and evolved already. And it's a fun place to be for that, for sure.
So, yeah, it's going to be interesting for me to see what happens this year with sort of all this tooling. My goal, I think, will be to try to do what I did with debuggers. I'm trying to get everybody out of debuggers because if you're leaning on the debuggers, you're not leaning on code readability. You're not leaning on mental models. You're not leaning on understanding what you're doing in the project. And I think AI tooling is going to have to be the same. It's leverage it, but work on getting yourself out of it. Other than I think the testing might be interesting just because, I mean, yeah, I think some of that boilerplate code. I just don't like code gen in general, but for tests, maybe it's okay.
Yeah.
We'll see.
Yeah, I've enjoyed it. I'm excited. It's a very fun space. I mean, like I said, I work in billing, so I don't really see a lot of the front line of Copilot stuff, but it's fun to see from my perspective.
Wow. And so now you've been at, what is it now? 25. Oh, so you've been there almost like 2.5, 3 years now.
Yeah.
Right. In the same group.
So I was in Actions, and then I joined billing
Actions.
last May.
Okay.
And I've been there since.
I mean, you have a lot of opportunity inside of GitHub to grow, so that's kind of cool. Do you ever go to any of the conferences? Have you been to any Go conferences? Or?
Yeah, I went to GopherCon in 2022,
Okay.
and I ended up joining the Call for Speakers panel in 2023, but did not end up going because I ended up being pregnant and having my twins like a week before the conference.
I don't wish that on anybody, especially if it's your...
Yeah. They were my second and third, I guess. So that helped, like not having to learn to be a parent at the same time as learning to have twins, because it is its own level of difficulty.
Yeah, it is.
Yeah, and then 2024, I just, was recovering from my life of having twins. And I think 2025, I'm planning to submit an actual talk this time, I think. And I'm on the board again, at least to review talks, and
that's
I'm
cool.
Excited to go.
Oh, so that means you were reviewing some of my talk suggestions.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You have somebody to blame.
That's cool.
It's a big panel, luckily. So there's, I think, 40 people or something like that looking at them.
I'm waiting to hear what the panel wants me to talk about now. So that's good. Yeah, I love the conferences. I didn't go to the Italian conference last year or some of the others, but UK is a great conference. You got to get there. Berlin is my favorite one in June.
I would love to go to Berlin. One of my brothers lives in Berlin, so I think it would be cool to go.
You got to have one of the parents babysit for like
there you go 4
days, and I love Berlin. That's like I have to be there every year. Yeah, you could talk there. That would be great.
That would be cool. Yeah, we'll see. I want to start getting into more conference speaking and writing more blog posts and things like that. That's my goal now that I'm done with having kids. 3 is enough for us. So
3, come on now.
Well, it's enough though where I don't have to start numbering them just yet. So maybe I'll.
My wife, I'll be 56 this year. Allie will be 50, but and she can't have kids. But like I told her, like if it ever happened, I wouldn't be terribly upset. I love kids. At the same time, please God, no.
I get that feeling a lot. Yeah, we were on the fence about having a second, and then I ended up getting pregnant with twins. So it was, an undertaking for sure. It's great now.
4 and 5 are Irish twins. They're like 11 months apart.
Yeah.
Yeah.
A lot of the same difficulties.
I mean, at some point, right? 2 cribs, like everything is doubled, right? It's a lot of work. In fact, those were the first 2 boys, right? Because I had 3 girls and 2 boys.
Okay.
And when they both started, when number 5 started walking, I remember my wife at the time calling me up going, if you don't come home with fencing, don't come home at all. Like, she was like at her wit's end because the boys were, one was going up the stairs, one was trying to jump over the couch. So I had to go to Home Depot and buy that like 3-foot plastic fencing that you can connect. And we basically caged them in the living room so she could have some like mental peace because, once they start walking, you know already, once they start walking.
Yep.
But the boys are just
much more difficult.
They're risk takers that age. So, fun. Now I'm ready for the grandkids. So I'm not grandpa yet. I have a friend who's already a grandmother, so I tease her all the time. But I'm being stupid because the moment one of my kids has a baby, it's going to be relentless.
Yeah. Yeah, it'll be fun. I feel like that's, a good investment in having kids is to then become a grandparent and, get all of the newborn snuggles and get to hand them back.
You see, I had my first kid when I was 26. And I did it because I wanted to be about this age or younger and be able to go out and have a drink with them. My kids are boring AF. Boring AF. If I even try to go out with them, it's like 9 o'clock, they're ready to go home. I'm like, this is why you exist. You exist for this moment. And you guys want to go home? I can't
I was also a boring kid, so I can't hate it. Maybe that's just the trend now. Everybody's becoming more boring over time.
I don't know. I don't like it. All right. So, hey, Brittany, this was an awesome story. I love how you finally found that path to tech just because you kept gravitating towards all the tech work in the different, right? Because that's what's happening, right? You're in this job and it's good, but now they need you to do something with a spreadsheet or do something on the computer or do something on this. And then finally the light bulb went on. Like, what am I doing? This is what I want to be doing. And then the life hack on getting the degree. Because that's huge, right? Like I have a nephew who is really smart, can be a great programmer. I put him in one of those boot camps at the end of 23. But there's no jobs right now because of what happened last year. And for him to get a college degree is going to take him 4+ years, right? And so you being able to get that degree in like 8 months that was the home run. So anybody thinking about a degree in computer science that already has a recent one, Brittany just gave you the life hack right there. Double dip on those credits. There you go. Oh, man.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, it was a great path. It was, and it's something that you can do part-time too, which is nice because a lot of those boot camps are full-time, which can make it hard.
Yeah, no, that was brilliant. And now you're in a great company, so it will be interesting to see. I know you have zero sort of desire to leave GitHub right now, but like, where would you like to sort of see yourself in 5 years? Because at some point you're going to have to make a decision if you're going to end up managing people again or not. And I don't know, money sometimes it's hard to walk away from money, right?
That's true. Yeah, I think I probably want to go the senior IC route for a while. I'm really enjoying getting more into, architecture and things like that. And I think I'll probably do that for a while at least. And yeah, I mean, if I'm still at GitHub in 5 years, I really wouldn't be mad about it because there's just so many things to learn there.
Yeah.
We'll see.
But you're young. So, I mean,
yes.
Is there anybody, I don't know how old GitHub is anymore. Is it a 15-year-old company?
Yeah, I think 15, 16 years.
Let me see. I got to look this up while you're here. GitHub established. Let's see. Let's see if I can get an answer here. 2008. Wow, much more than I thought. What is that, like 17 years? Wow. I wonder how many people there are some companies in California that I would train and people would be like, I've been here for 15, I've been here for 20, I've been here for 30 years. I'm like, whoa, right? So, I mean, there may be some 15-year employees over there. So, and
yeah, every now and then there's like a very long tenure that they announce. It's a little hard to tell because I think they count, since they were acquired by Microsoft, they also count Microsoft tenure in, how long somebody's been there. So it's kind of hard to tell.
That's weird. Yeah. Oh, that's weird. Yeah, I don't want to.
I mean, it's the same company, I guess, or same parent company.
Yeah,
so,
but I mean, you could do 20 years there. Easily.
Yeah.
Well, now with Microsoft, why not?
Yeah.
Can you jump into some Microsoft Teams and out of GitHub easily, or is that a whole nother interview process?
I think it's a whole new interview process. Yeah, it's a whole, it's its own thing.
But it's got to be easier.
Maybe, yeah. I know there's a few people who have gone there. I think we can like still refer to Microsoft roles too, so that like there's some in there HR wise, but I'm not really sure how that works. But that wouldn't be a bad option either, because I think, Microsoft would be an interesting company to work for too.
I don't know. Do you ever see yourself going back into a startup since you love that? I mean, it would be hard with 3 kids.
In my career. Yeah, it would be hard with 3 kids. They'd have to be older, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe you start your own company. Is your partner in tech? Does he is he software dev?
No,
or
he's a mechanical engineer. But my oldest brother has done a few startups now, and he's the one that's in Berlin, and he's just getting a new venture going. So I have
Could you ever work with your brother? Could you ever work with?
No, no, absolutely not. They're both like my best mentors. I go to them with all sorts of different problems, and they're the people that I go to when I ask about career things. But I don't think we could ever actually work together.
The 3 of you got to do a product startup. Got to come up with an idea.
That's true. We would have a lot of the different pieces for sure, but I think we're probably better separate than.
I mean, instead of forming a band or a singing group, you can build a product.
It's like the Jonas Brothers of software.
Yeah. That's what I'm saying. I think you got to keep that in the back of your head. You just make sure that they put all the money in.
Yeah, exactly. Make sure they're the ones investing.
Yeah, you get your 33% because you're their sister.
Mm-hmm.
Anyway, it was so wonderful to talk to you, Brittany. Thank you for coming on the show. I told you the hour and a half was going to go by.
Yeah, it was great.
Super fast. So
yeah.
All right, if anybody listening to the show, we'll put it in the show notes. Had any questions or something, is there what's your best channel for them to talk to you?
Probably Blue Sky. That's the one that I'm probably most active on, or LinkedIn. Brittany Ellich. It's great search engine optimization, and there's not a lot of Ellichs out there, so easy to find.
Yeah, we'll get on the show notes. All right,
great.
This is the Ardan Labs podcast signing off. Brittany and I hope to see you again real soon.